us here at the front are going to talk just in a couple closing comments from everybody, and then we'll take questions from our friends and colleagues in the media. I will begin. I really want to begin by thanking the secretaries. You know, this is a very seminal event for Alaska. We've tried to look in our history and see when the last time we had the Secretary of Interior, Secretary of Energy, the EPA Administrator, all here, not just for a fly-in, but for several days to come in to be part of our state, to hear from key stakeholders, and I don't think it's ever happened before. And it's really, really exciting. So, gentlemen, and for all you and your teams, thank you very much for listening, for respecting. And I never tire doing it, but we got a new sheriff in town. This is the old sheriff. This is the 70 executive orders and executive actions to lock up Alaska by the Biden administration. We didn't like that. They didn't ask us about these. This is now gone, right? We're no longer doing this. We're no longer crushing our state, our economy. We have the new executive order, and that's what this whole meeting was about. This is the day one. This is the day one executive order from President Trump on unleashing Alaska's extraordinary resource potential. Day one. We're the only state in the country that has our own executive order, and what we've been doing in this meeting was to say, how do we implement this? We have the need for speed right now, and we have the people and the leaders in our entire federal government that want to help us. And when you help Alaska, you help America. There's no doubt about it. So we've had a great group of stakeholders, our job creators, our great building trades who have our workers. And I would say, just from my perspective, the key here has been about action. And a couple takeaways from my own observation for the last 2 hours: permitting reform. We always talk about it, but that has become the giant issue. It shouldn't take 20 years to permit a gold mine in Alaska. I mean, that hurts people. When you delay things for so long, and we know the radical far-left groups that do it, they don't care about our state. They don't care about the communities like in western Alaska with their poverty that they have. They just want to shut down everything. We got to get beyond that, and we have a great administration that wants to help us, but that is a big takeaway. Second, I would say, in terms of our oil and gas sector, it's not always commonly known, but we probably have the hottest play in the world right now on the North Slope. We really do. If you look at what's going on there, in the NPRA and on state land, and hopefully even ANWR, we just need federal government to help us, and this is the team that wants to do it. Again, that will help Alaska, our workers, our economy, our future, but it will also help our country. And then the ACLNG project, I know we get Alaskans who roll their eyes on that. I think we have really historic progress that's happening, both at the private sector side, but also very importantly to help us is to have the president and his team right here have made that a priority. When you look at the president's executive order, twice the Alaska LNG project has been mentioned as a top priority of the United States of America. Again, we've never had that before. President Trump highlighted it in his State of the Union, in his meetings with the Korean president, with the Japanese prime minister. So a lot of tailwinds there, exciting times. We're not there yet, but it's exciting, and I again want to thank all the stakeholders here, but I really want to thank the members of the National Energy Dominance Council. It's a great innovation at the White House right now, chaired by Secretary Burgum, Vice Chairman Secretary Wright, Administrator Zeldin's part of that. It's an exciting time, and this group of leaders for our country are up here to listen. I'll make one final comment. Speaking of listening, we're going to go to the North Slope tonight. We're going to do a town hall on the North Slope. We're going to spend tomorrow on the North Slope looking at some of our operations. We're going to Utiavik. The wonderful Alaskans on the North Slope, the tribe, the ANC, the borough, went to Washington, D.C. 8 different times to try to meet with the former Secretary of Interior. because she was completely locking up their lands 8 times, and she never met with them. Didn't listen, didn't care, didn't respect our fellow Alaskans. Secretary Burgum has met with these Alaskans probably more in his first 5 months than the last Secretary of Interior met with them in 4 years. And now this group of leaders is going to the North Slope to hear directly from Alaskans. That is such a change. And what it is, at the end of the day, it's respect for our constituents. And I can't thank you gentlemen enough for that. So with that, I'll turn it over to Senator Murkowski.
Senator Sullivan, thank you, and I will be brief because I think the unique situation that we have this morning with our cabinet secretaries, Secretary Burgum from Interior, Secretary Wright at Energy, and Administrator Zeldin from EPA, to have them here in our state, to be listening to industry leaders, to be listening to Alaskans. This is the newsworthy takeaway, and it is instructive, I think, for those of us here in Alaska to realize the partnership that we have with this administration. The Trump administration has looked at Alaska's potential as an asset instead of a liability. Thank you for the leadership that you are demonstrating. Thank you for the leadership from the administration that is focused on what it really means to be energy secure, to be focused on energy dominance, and it really begins with the great state of Alaska. So thank you for that. We do a lot of these roundtables where we talk about the issues, the problems, and the solutions, and then folks go away saying that was a good thing. But to Senator Sullivan's point, where do we go from here? What is the implementation? What are the next steps going forward? And I think you heard from those who were presenting today, it starts with permitting. It starts with coordination within the agency so that you don't have overlap and overlay and redundancy. It starts with looking critically at the delays that come with litigation. It starts with making sure that we have definitions when it comes to waters of the United States that not only make sense, but that comply with the law. It begins and ends with our ability to be able to fill up taps. It then moves to that next step with this long anticipated, literally lifetime dream for so many, that we would be able to access our natural gas resources, not only for the benefit of the people of the state of Alaska, but for the benefit of the people of this country and our friends and allies abroad. So to be able to be part of this conversation today, to have you hear how we want to join with you. We want to partner with you. We want to be that equal at the table instead of an afterthought. So thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And thank you for putting Alaska on the map.
Great. Governor.
You know, it's interesting for me. It's been a story of doubt. Alaska was doubted in 1867 when it was purchased from Russia by Seward. We're probably the only state in the country that reveres a Secretary of State. His portrait hangs in the mansion. Seward Peninsula, city of Seward, a lot of Seward. It was doubted that we could build a Trans-Alaska oil pipeline. That was doubted. It was built in 3 years, 74 to 77, start producing oil. It was doubted that you could export LNG out of a sovereign. We were the first in the world to do that. 50 years going to Japan. This gas line was doubted. Our ability to mine responsibly is doubted. Our ability to use our national forest responsibly was doubted. The list of doubts go on, and Alaska and this country have dispelled a lot of doubts. And this is another example. I think we're at an inflection point. You know, the state of Alaska, I think, has the finest. Sorry, Doug. I think the state of Alaska is the finest motto in the country. Anyone know what it is? North of the future. I think it says it all. And I'll just say the last doubt. It was 4 tough years for Alaska as a resource state, previous to President Trump 2.0. And I can recall having a conversation with him when he was He's going to be running again for the office. And I basically said, I'll paraphrase, what about Alaska? He said to me, it's going to be key and central to everything. And a lot of presidents have said that. A lot of politicians have said that. The first thing he did was he put together a campaign video exclusively for Alaska. It was a 3-minute video talking about everything that's happened that we're talking about right now. We talked about executive orders. The first day in office was an executive order for the state of Alaska. And as the senator said, it's the only executive order for any state. And then to build upon that, in my opinion, he picked 3 of the best individuals you could find in this country to run these organizations that are sitting here today. And now they're here today in Alaska. And, you know, in politics, there's a lot of show. There's a lot of bravado. There's a lot of, you know, we hope people forget what we didn't do or what we did. But I think with these gentlemen here, they're going to be here for 2 out of 3 are going to be here for the entire week at the energy conference. They're going to go to the slope. But I think in the end, this belief in Alaska, I think is starting to permeate every level across this state, across this country, across this globe. You're going to see some of this Tuesday morning. I'll wrap this up. There's going to be some very interesting information presented Tuesday morning at the energy conference that's going to talk about the social license that Alaska has, not just from Alaskans, but from Americans. And the only thing I would leave the 3 gentlemen here that have traveled so far to be with us is I want to thank you for believing in this state. I want to thank you for believing in this country that it could be something different than where it was headed just a few months ago. So thanks for everything you're doing, and thanks for being here.
Administrator Zeldin.
There is nowhere more important for the 3 of us to be right now than right here with all of you. And it's exciting to think about how these next few days are going to go. At the Trump EPA, we choose to both protect the environment and grow the economy. It's not a binary choice. We don't have to pick one or the other. We choose both. It is my 3 favorite words. They were spoken about in different ways over the course of this morning's roundtable. Approved, primacy, and durability. And a strong Alaska and EPA doing our part means that we have a stronger national security future as a nation. We have a stronger economic future as a nation. And I'll say something that Chris Wright and Doug Burgum are too humble to say themselves. Now, sometimes when you might meet with some officials who will come from, say, Washington, D.C., you wonder when the roundtable or the visit is over, whether or not the conversation continues, or do we just move on to other stuff, other priorities, and this conversation's forgotten. I have personally been inside of many meetings with both of these 2 gentlemen where the level of depth and intellect that they have towards these issues that were brought up here, they can teach a 401 doctorate class on all of this. I've seen them do it in National Energy Dominance Council meetings, and I've seen them do it directly with President Trump. And I am extraordinarily confident in knowing that once this very productive visit to Alaska is done and we head back to Washington, D.C., that this team is able to work with your governor, with your congressional delegation, to be able to work with all of you to make sure this wasn't just some idea one Sunday morning of an amazing future ahead for Alaska. It's not just a dream. It's not just hope. This is more than a vision. And the follow-through that I anticipate over the course of the next few years is exciting, because Alaska is going to become stronger. Our nation is going to become better for it, with a more secure national security, with a more secure economic future, and we at the EPA will make sure that we're doing our part to ensure that we're also protecting our great environment. Thank you, Senator Sullivan, for your leadership bringing us all together. I look forward to being able to get to work with these gentlemen on the follow-through.
Secretary Wright.
Wow, I'm thrilled to work with Administrator Zeldin and everyone at the front of this stage. Look, Alaska was always a big, bold place, a big, bold idea full of big, bold people. Soon after it became a state, explorers went rapidly to the North Slope and discovered just the first few oil fields that were there. They've been underground for millions of years. Underground materials are not resources. They only become resources when technology and infrastructure and permission to develop them happens. But soon after this discovery, in a bolder time in our country, those fields were developed. As the governor mentioned, the TAPS pipeline was built in 3 years. We transformed the American energy situation in the United States and for Alaskans. And as Senator Sullivan points out often, life expectancy for Native American people living on the North Slope of Alaska grew by double digits. That's the impact of first access to meaningful quantities of energy has to human lives. That was scratching the surface of the underground materials in Alaska. Today, there's far more big, bold people. There's far more understanding of these materials underground that could become resources, that should become resources to make life in Alaska better, to make America stronger, and to make our country less dependent on foreign adversaries. And as we've all said, President Trump got elected on that premise. Not handouts to Alaskans, not wet blankets for Alaskans, just freedom to develop the underground materials and turn them into resources, to change the lives of Alaskans, to strengthen our country, and allow us to better supply our allies. So we are proud to be here to help implement President Trump's agenda to unleash Alaska for a safe, prosperous, and opportunity-filled future.
By the way, I appreciate Secretary Wright mentioning that to our friends in the media. This is the chart we were talking about, the life expectancy on the North Slope, Northwest Arctic Borough, up by 13 years over a 25-year period because of responsible resource development. If you want our friends in the media, we have this for you. And last but not least, our Alaska's landlord, the chairman of the American Energy Dominance Council, a former governor of a big state with a lot of energy himself, Secretary Burgum, Secretary of Interior.
Thank you, Senator, and thank you again for hosting. Thank you to your team, and thanks for everybody who came today. I love the level of civic engagement. Love the number, the high percentage of legislators that are here. Love the industry leaders that have all come together on a Sunday morning. The industry folks that are here. I mean, this is how communities and states move forward, is when people come together with a shared vision. And I think that one of the things that is so exciting is that Alaska always has been an incredibly extraordinary place filled with extraordinary potential. And now we have this confluence of having leadership, a president who recognizes that and has empowered Lee and Chris and I to go actually do the execution to do that unleashing. That's our job. We get up every day and this is what we do. And it's and for all of us, and for me in particular, with Interior, when you take a look at the vast amount of intersection between Interior, where you take a look at close to half the land that Interior manages, the half of the national federally recognized tribes and native organizations are here. When you take a look at the water, the mineral resources, all those things here, this is a huge thing. The Secretary of Interior should be here all the time, every day, because it's such a big part of the portfolio. But we also have this confluence of events. We have a confluence of events where, because of innovation has always been at the heart of American greatness. And we were on a path as a country in as late as 2005, 2006. Chris knows it well. He was in the industry. But we started going down a path as a country saying we're going to run out of our traditional energy sources. So, we better diversify, and we better subsidize all that diversification. And of course, in a world where we've got, open markets and open markets for information, we've got competitors.
And I'm just going to share a story about Germany for 1 second, which Chris knows well. Germany, over the similar period of time, spent $500 billion, $500 billion subsidizing wind and solar in a northern latitude country that had the largest economy in all of Europe. They were a manufacturing juggernaut. They spent all that money, and now they produce 20% less electricity than they did over a decade ago, and it costs 3 times as much. And when you have high costs for energy, guess what happens? Manufacturers leave. Advanced manufacturing is going to require more electricity than anything we've had in the past in a manufacturing plant. Warehousing, the kind of warehouse that I grew up working as a kid in a small town of less than 400 people, with pallets and a forklift and agricultural products. There was almost no electricity used. Today, so call it very few kilowatts per square foot. Today, a modern warehouse, just a warehouse with a level of automation, 25 kilowatts per square foot. The new ones that are being built with full automation, 40 kilowatts per square foot. And so everywhere you look, there's increasing demands for energy that can help us realize human potential. And as I said earlier, we're in a spot where a kilowatt hour of electricity matters more than ever before, because you can convert it directly from electricity. You can manufacture intelligence. That's what AI data centers are. Alaska can have all this potential in the world, but if it doesn't develop its energy resources, if it doesn't have enough energy for its own people, if it doesn't have low-cost energy, there will not be AI data centers here. They will go to the places where things can get permitted and get done. And part of the job the three of us have at the federal level is to unwind the 70, I'll call them sanctions, the 70 EOs that restricted Alaska. When you said the word respect, that is absolutely true, because when the federal government was created by the states. Those 13 original states said, these are the limited powers of the federal government. They didn't say unlimited. They defined what those were. And each state that joined after that, including Alaska, has the same rights as part of joining statehood that any other does. But somehow along the way, we've got, unnamed funders of NGOs that want to treat Alaska like a snow globe. And you could say, oh, they want to save the environment. Do they want to save the environment? Or are some of those people just trying to restrict our ability to be competitive? Because in the same time frame that we've been striking down the ability for Alaska to have its own self-destiny, as every state should have, we have seen some of our major competitors do things like, take over 85% of the mining and refining of rare earth minerals. And now we find ourselves, so the Energy Council is, we deal with mining, we deal with critical minerals, we deal with geothermal, we deal with nuclear, all forms of this stuff, because if we aren't energy dominant as a country, we are not going to reach our potential. Alaska won't reach hers. So these two roles that I have, chair of NEDC and chair of Interior, completely intersect. And where do they leave? North of the future, right here, Governor, to Alaska, because this is the place where it's happening. Alaska has the opportunity to play an incredible key role in critical minerals. Alaska has an opportunity to allow us to do one of the mandates of the Trump administration, which is sell energy to our friends and allies so they don't have to buy it from our adversaries. That's how we ended up in some of the positions we're in. And we have to undo this, because meanwhile, Alaska was getting sanctioned more than Iran in the last 4 years. Iran's oil production went up. Alaska's went down. North Dakota's went down. In North Dakota, we're a small state. We produce 1.2 million barrels of oil a day in our state. And with that, we still have among the cleanest water, the cleanest air, the most abundant wildlife. We have all of that. So when Alaska, which has got, shockingly, 1/10, we're the 4th least dense state in America, North Dakota, with 10 people per square mile. Alaska's 1/10 of that. You guys got us beat by a factor of 10. And so when you've got this much beautiful space and this much resource, absolutely, positively, as Lee was saying, this is a both. Alaska can develop all of these resources. Alaska can play a key player in our national security. They can play a key role in developing the lives of every community in every part of the state. All of that can happen. and it's going to happen because we unleash the freedom of that allows innovation to take hold and drive towards the success. And with that, I say the potential of this state is unbelievable, and it will, as one of the other people said earlier, it can really become a powerhouse of a state, as opposed to something that NGOs and others may think of as a place to lock up in their little snow globe. But it is, so tourism, timber, fishing, everything else that goes on here, mining, oil and gas, all the things we talked about, that's all possible. But if you've got an abundant low-cost energy, you're also going to end up, I mean, think of this airport that you have right here. Direct flights to 16 countries, you know, on the Great Circle route to the Pacific, the rise of the Pacific. Alaska can play such a huge role in this, but we've got to get the federal government out of your way. That's what the three of us are here to do. Thank you.
Right.
Party registration. Yeah, sure. Thanks. Nat Hers with Northern Journal here in Alaska. For Secretary Burgum and Secretary Wright, I guess I'm curious, like, we've heard a lot of broad discussion here. Can you name any particular sort of project or permit that has been held up over the past 4 years or regardless of that is sort of at the top of the list for the Trump administration that, you know, is a project you guys expect to see move forward under this new administration?
Well, there was a lot of attacks in 4 years, but there's things that are 40 and 45 years old. It goes back to 1980, some of these things that were promised to the state of Alaska that haven't been implemented. And, you know, Ambler Road is one of those. And there's, I know that there's been, you know, decades, King Cove Road. I mean, there's a number of these projects that become flashpoints where, again, the general thing is, oh, here's this thing going on in a state you've never been to. Be worried about it. Be afraid, and send us a check so we can hire lawyers to try to stop Alaska from reaching their potential. And so part of what we have to do is we have to understand that stopping infrastructure is a business model that's very profitable for certain groups. And it's not whether you say you don't have to believe or not believe, pick your side, but understand it's a business model. But there's also a business model of helping people realize their full potential and have the same rights and opportunities that we do in all the other states in America. And so those are a couple. Chris, I'm sure, has got some as well.
I'll give just one other as a specific example. So this oil find on the north slope of Alaska in a shallow formation, the Pika Formation, the Discovery well was drilled in 2013. 12 years ago. Today there's zero production from that formation. 2 years after that discovery, the other giant conventional oil discovery in the last 15 years was offshore Guyana, 100 miles off the coast of Guyana in 7,000 feet deep seawater. That's producing 600,000 barrels a day, that new discovery, more than the state of Alaska today, and it'll be 1 million plus barrels a day within the next 24 months. So if 100 miles offshore, 7,000 feet deep water, in Guyana, a country with no previous oil and gas production, if they can move that fast in Alaska, we can't get any commercial oil in 12 years. That shows you how extreme the problems are to develop in Alaska. The opportunities are just immense, but it's just so hard, so costly, so timely to do anything. Just a lot less is happening that should be, and we're at risk of the TAPS oil pipeline falling below its minimum flow. So there's clearly a need for dramatic change, but dramatic change is coming.
Nat, just real quick, one that was discussed a lot, which was probably the most egregious effort of the Biden administration, was their 2024 rule on NPRA. The National Petroleum Reserve of Alaska is not wilderness. It was set aside by the Congress for petroleum production, and the Biden administration tried to turn it into wilderness through rulemaking. It's completely illegal, just like Judge Gleason ruled that their actions on ANWR were illegal. So one of the top priorities is to get the NPRA back to where it was supposed to be by the intention of Congress to develop oil for it and to remove all the regulations that the Biden guys put on NPRA, and that is a huge priority.
So I'm getting pressure to get you guys out of here, so we have to move quickly. But I want to get everybody having a question.
Iris Samuels with the Anchorage Daily News. My question is about the budget reconciliation bill that was passed by the U.S. House, and that bill would phase out renewable energy tax credits. And it's been said that that could halt several energy projects in Alaska. So my question, and I'm hoping that Senator Sullivan answers this, is: do you support the elimination of federal funding for renewable energy projects in Alaska, and do you see those projects as in conflict with the priorities of the Trump administration here in Alaska?
So I think from the perspective of our discussions today, we're an all of the above energy state. We talked about mining, we talked about oil and gas, but we also talked about other renewables. The governor's summit this week is going to be focused on that. We're looking at the different elements of what's in the House budget reconciliation bill. And, you know, there's different ways in which the 45Q issue, I think, is one that there's probably a lot of interest in keeping. That relates to carbon sequestration and others. But we're still studying the bill and trying to figure out what's the best way to balance what's in budget reconciliation with the overall goals of that bill.
Hello, my name is Joe Allgood. I'm with Alaska's News Source, and I have a question for Administrator Zeldin. I just want to see what you have been looking at in terms of environmental protections as you look at increased development, not just for the environment, but also for subsistence communities in northern Alaska.
Well, it's important for us to fulfill all of our obligations under the law, landmark laws that are on the books, Clean Air Act, Clean Water Act, Safe Drinking Water Act, and so much more. When I have met with Governor Dunleavy, with Senator Sullivan, with Senator Murkowski, they come to the meetings with a very long list of very specific priorities that include ensuring clean air, land, and water for all residents of the state. So we will fulfill our statutory obligations. We'll continue to work with these elected officials. And also, Senator Sullivan sent me a great recommendation, who is now our regional administrator for Region 10, Emma Pokin, who was actually the chair here at the state DEC. Alaska is, they sent an amazing leader to run Region 10. And as soon as Senator Sullivan sent the recommendation, I instantly heard from others, including Senator Murkowski, raving about what a great choice that she will be. Emma and her team love Alaska. Emma's from Alaska, so every single day that we're on the job, we're going to make sure that we're striking that balance. As Governor Burgum Secretary Burgum just reiterated, we can ensure that all of our goals here of growing the economy in Alaska can be achieved by also protecting the environment.
If I can add to that real quick, as someone who's traveled to 55 countries around the world in poor, remote, urban areas, I will tell you, in places with the least infrastructure and the least energy development is where you see by far the greatest environmental stresses. Everyone is living off wood. You see massive deforestation. You don't see plumbing and clean water. You see very stressed environments and very low-income people. As you develop energy resources, it actually turns out to be a huge positive for the environment, not the view that it's a trade-off, the negative. I grew up in Denver, Colorado 50 years ago. I couldn't see the mountains in Colorado 1 out of 3, 1 out of 4 days. Meaningful challenge to our air quality. Today we produce 5 times as much oil just north of the city of Denver. Dramatically improved air quality, dramatic increase in wildlife and wilderness in the Colorado mountains. So it's not development or environment.
I think that's one of the great themes of this roundtable is you can do both. Protect the environment, which is what all Alaskans want, and create energy and natural resource development for our people.
Hi, Wesley Early with Alaska Public Media. I noticed on a flyer out there that the gas line project was being framed as America's gas line, which I hadn't seen before. I'm curious, with all of the focus from the state on securing foreign investment in the gas line, if you anticipate the Trump administration helping to foot some of the bill for the gas line as well.
I would just say there are huge implications for national security for the United States to be able to export energy to our Pacific allies, South Korea, Japan, the Philippines, Taiwan, everybody up and down the line that is there. And again, as we talked earlier here for the press, I mean, our largest forward deployment of troops for many decades has been in Korea. We have 29,000 people in Korea. Japan has got one of the largest bases outside the United States. And so we're deeply entwined with these countries from a security standpoint, and as the geopolitics shift towards the Pacific, that becomes even more important. And yet these countries like South Korea and Japan have got virtually no oil and gas development, and between the two of them there's 170 million people, and they virtually have no oil and gas. So selling energy to our friends and allies so they don't have to buy it from our adversaries is a key strategy. So in that sense, you know, any time that we could do exporting off the West Coast as opposed to the Gulf. When we export off the Gulf, we're now one of the largest exporters of energy. We weren't 15 years ago. We were running out of energy. Now we're a large exporter, which is great. That's helped change. It's been $1 trillion tax break for all Americans because we've lowered the cost of energy, but it's also helped us ensure world peace. But right now, I mean, there's a choke point through the Panama Canal. So the stuff that's coming off the Gulf, you know, it's of the United States, even if we want to sell to those same allies, is 24 to 27 days versus 8 days from Alaska to Japan. So in that sense, it really is America's pipeline in the sense that it has huge benefits for Alaskans. Alaska needs it for its own energy sources, but as participating as part of national security, this is one of the extraordinary ways that Alaska can participate with all of these resources. And we've been talking a little bit about how you can do both. I mean, the thing with Willow, which always astounded me, is that, you know, people were losing their minds over the fact that they were permitting Willow, and the NPRA, I looked on a map and I'm like, that thing is huge. How big is that? And I looked up, it's the size of Indiana. The NRPA is the size of Indiana. And they permitted 3 well pads, and those well pads are less than 60 acres apiece. It's like a quarter mile out of 40,000 square miles. It's like, put a fraction, 1 on the top and 160,000 on the bottom. I mean, if you sent out a search party, you might not even be able to find those pads. I mean, it's like literally, it's like a raft in the middle of the ocean. I mean, how do you find the thing? And so it's like so when I say I know we can do both, part of it is we just have to be able to do math in this country and understand that the impacts are so low, and one of the lowest land impacts is today's modern oil and gas industry. I mean, it's, you know, solar takes up huge fields and it's got huge implications. Wind has got, you know, like, I mean, we did wind in North Dakota. Some of those were 8,000 acres. 8,000 acres, and now we're talking here that's like less than a quarter of a square mile out of the size of Indiana. If you threw a pin at the map of Indiana and it hit and took the pin out, the hole would be larger than what the Willow pads are. But I'm an NGO. Send a check to me, and we'll help stop it. I mean, it's like that. So anyway, this is something that I think that Alaska has such a huge opportunity to do both, because even with the impact you can have on mining, I mean, that's the same kind of thing. Teeny amounts of acres for huge amounts of opportunity for both. But not just revenue for Alaskans, but solving our critical minerals issue. We've got to get back in the mining game. We have to be in the mining game in this country. We have to be in the timber game in this country. We have to be in the oil and gas game in this country. If we don't, we're going to lose the current global AI arms race that we're in.
Wesley, real quick, just to add to that, we did have federal loan guarantees for the Alaska LNG project that Senator Murkowski and I got in the infrastructure bill, and it's the only LNG project in the country that has the full faith and credit of the United States of America backing it, so that's very substantial. The Biden administration would not do anything, despite that being in the law, with regard to following the law to implement the federal loan guarantees that we got in for the Alaska LNG project. We had discussion in this meeting today with Secretary Wright and his team. I think we can say confidently that they're going to follow the law and work with us on federal loan guarantees for the Alaska LNG project. So from that perspective, the answer to your question is yes.
And I want to go back to one thing that maybe didn't answer the question, which is there will be the opportunity for foreign direct investment in all kinds of projects around our country. But the Alaska pipeline, if we get offtake agreements, if we sell energy to our Pacific allies, there will be people lined up to finance it. We won't take foreign capital to build the pipeline. There may be foreign interest in wanting to be part of it because it's going to be a great project. But what we really need is customers. And we need customers, we need to have those people getting their energy from us as opposed to getting it from our adversaries. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and like I said, I don't know if Chris wants to comment, but the amount of capital formation that's been occurring around natural gas right now is, remarkable. Some of that's related to AI, but as I said earlier, if Alaska wants to have AI data centers and manufacture intelligence, you got to have low cost natural gas. That's one of the things that's going to happen in the near term. Longer term, it's nuclear, but short term, it's LNG.
Buddy, thank you. Thanks again, gentlemen.